Section 2.4 is deductive reasoning. And first thing to notice is it's not inductive, that was patterns. Deductive is more reasoning, I'm just going to say based on the facts. Okay. When we do deductive reasoning today, you're going to have two different laws, two different ways of thinking and coming to conclusions. One of them is going to be called syllogism, and one of them is going to be called detachment. Okay, so we're going to use these two laws to come to conclusions. Okay, so as we go through that, deductive reasoning is the big idea, but we're going to use syllogism and detachment to do that. So, real quick review. If I'm thirsty, then I drink water. Obviously, the converse of that is if I drink water, my stylus sucks. So I'm going to have to, and I am thirsty. I'm not even going to finish it. You get it. Okay. If the car outside is wet, then it rained. Well, converse is I flip it. If it rained, then the car outside is wet. Okay. Let's skip the rest of this page for now. It just talks about deducing and the logic there. So we'll go on to the next page. So let's dive in and talk about this law of detachment. So the law states if the hypothesis of a true conditional is true, then the conclusion is true. So you'll hear me say a lot, if the hypothesis is true, or if the hypothesis is fulfilled, then we get to use the law of detachment. Okay, so they kind of give an example of P and Q. So if P, then Q. So like if you have a conditional statement and you find out that P is true, then you can go ahead and make the jump that Q is true. Okay, sounds fairly straightforward. I think detachment's a little easier than syllogism. So let's look at problem 1 here. If there is lightning, then it is not safe to be out in the open. If there is lightning, then it is not safe to be out in the open. That's a conditional statement. If, then. When you're using detachment, there'll be another little statement that is detached at the bottom. It's not an if-then statement. What I'm underlining in yellow is not a conditional. It's just an extra piece of information. Marla sees lightning from the soccer field. So the question then is the hypothesis true? So if there is lightning, so I look at my yellow statement, is there lightning? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to be able to make conclusions using the law of detachment here. Okay, so it has you underline the hypothesis and circle the conclusion. We've done that before. Underline hypothesis, circle conclusion. And then it's just talking us through what we just talked about. Underline the correct word or phrase to complete each sentence. Marla sees lightning from the soccer field. It does fit the hypothesis. So we can make the conclusion that it is not safe to be on the soccer field. Okay. You'll know it's detachment if there's a if-then statement and then a detached statement right below it. Whereas when you have syllogism, you're going to have two if-then statements. Okay. This one says you can state a conclusion from two true conditional statements when the conclusion of one statement is the hypothesis of the other. The conclusion of one statement is the hypothesis of the other. You'll see it here in a sec. I just want to show you the examples on this one. PQQR, then PR is one way to put it, but I think it's easier to see it this way. If it's July, then you're on summer vacation. That's a basic conditional. If, then. Then you get another conditional. If you're on summer vacation, then you work in a smoothie shop. You see the link there. The link is the summer vacation. It's the conclusion of one, and it's the hypothesis of the next one. If that's the case, what you can do is you can link the very first part and the very last part. So if it's July, I'm looking at the conclusion now, then you work at a smoothie shop. I'll let you fill it in. Okay, notice when I make a conclusion here, when I use syllogism, I'm using another if-then statement. When I did detachment, my conclusion was just, it's not safe. When I use syllogism, I make another if-then statement. I'm just linking the very beginning of the first one with the very end of the second one. Let's look at example 10. If a figure is a rhombus, then it has 4 sides. If it has 4 sides, then it is a quadrilateral. You can see again, there's a link. The conclusion of one matches the hypothesis of another. When that's the case, I can use the law of syllogism to make a conclusion. My conclusion will be an if-then statement. If, and now I'm looking at the beginning of the first statement, if a figure is a rhombus, then I can link it to the very last part of the last one, the conclusion, then it is a quad. I need a new stylus. Okay. Now, we'll just talk through the got it one. We don't have to worry about number 11. Just if a number ends in 0, then it is divisible by 10. If a number is divisible by 10, then it is divisible by 5. You can almost kind of hear it when you read it out loud. So if I were going to make a conclusion, I would say if a number ends in 0, then it is divisible by 5. That's law of syllogism.